Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm Harley Johnson from University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. I'm a faculty member in material science and mechanical engineering. I've been there for 24 years. It's really a great pleasure to come across the state line and celebrate the partnership between the state of Illinois and the state of Indiana. I want to talk to you about a project that we're just very excited about, a new project happening not far from here, called the Illinois Quantum and Microelectronics Park. This is really a massive public-private partnership that is dedicated to advancing quantum computing and to solving some of the big challenges in quantum and microelectronics that are really just so important to our economic security and our national security. And I want to tell you just sort of a little bit about the project, show you some images, and share with you a few details about some of the things that we've just really announced only in the last couple of months. Okay, so IQMP, this is the acronym we use for the park. This is going to be a first-of-its-kind campus, really an entirely new campus, physical location, that's built for quantum computing scale-up and related quantum and microelectronics manufacturing R&D. So this is developed really over the past year. About 2 months ago, we announced the site and we announced some of the funding sources. We announced the team, and we've been building since then. We expect to have this in part up and running in about 2 years. I'll tell you a little bit more about how this happened and how it came about and about the scale, because I think what I want to sort of leave with you is that this is really massive. We're very excited about the potential impact of this, and I think that it stitches together some of the topics that we heard about, certainly in the last panel, but also through the morning sessions as well. Okay, a little bit about our team. So as I said, I'm a faculty member of materials science, mechanical engineering. Work a little bit on microelectronic materials and quantum materials. I'm not a quantum computing expert, but I've worked with a big team that includes Brian DeMarco, who was in the last panel, who is a quantum computing expert, and a number of others to create the vision for this project. So the project is really, I would say, instrumentally really set up by the state of Illinois leadership, and including Governor Pritzker, who made a massive commitment to help launch this. A number of members of his team, including from the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. So this was largely, and as I hopefully unspool this a little bit for you, this is largely, at least initially, an economic development play for the state of Illinois. But you'll see that we have partners from across the state, including the two national labs, Argonne and Fermilab. We thank them for their really central role in this. University of Chicago and all of the quantum expertise that they bring, as well as other academic institutions from around the state, as well as some nonprofits and economic development organizations. Along with Brian and I, Laura Appenzeller there is one of the leaders of this activity. And just to give you a sense of what we have in mind by this project, Laura is the executive director of the University of Illinois Research Park. So Purdue has a great research park. U of I has a great research park. And what I want to sort of convey to you is that this quantum activity is something like a new R&D park dedicated to quantum computing. All right, we heard in the last session why quantum, right? And I won't go into the details here, except to say that we believe that there are potentially applications across many sectors, and really highly impactful applications. And I think that the last panelist did a good job of speaking to that. But what we're thinking, as we establish this new activity, is that we don't know whether all these applications will come to life, and we have to prove that. We have to prove that they will. Furthermore, in order to prove it, we know that with quantum computing, we have to scale up before we can really know. And so that's really the mission of this park. Okay, so now I'll just direct your attention to the rendering on the screen there. This park is in a really unique location. It's right on Lake Michigan, just not too far from here. 128 acres. When we fully build out this park, it'll be over 1 million square feet of developed space. And in this image, you can see in the near ground the park itself, 128 acres. And in the distance, that's the skyline of the city of Chicago. So this is actually located within the city limits of the city of Chicago on a former U.S. Steel plant site. So it's known as the former Southworks site. So this is an area that's sat idle for many years, decades, and in a formerly heavily industrial part of the city. So we're excited about the opportunity to revitalize this area through really a brand new industry. The other part of the location of this is that this puts us really in the middle of this Illinois-Indiana quantum corridor, really in the middle of it. And I think that's really an essential piece of this. We heard about the importance of workforce development and about the importance of proximity to the universities. I would also add to that, in quantum, we want to take advantage of the proximity to a very diverse economy, because there are many, many potential end users based in Chicago across really a huge number of industries. So putting this activity here, I think, gives us a lot of advantages. Okay, how it will work. So I mentioned the state's investment. So in the FY25 budget, Governor Pritzker pledged $500 million towards this campus in several different buckets, mostly for capital development, but also to allow us to match federal funding opportunities. The park itself will be managed, not owned, but managed and operated by an organization that we call it University Research Organization, or URO, which is an LLC that is owned by the Board of Trustees of the University of Illinois. So that organization, I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute, but that organization will serve as essentially the convener and lay the ground rules for how the park will work. The URO itself has governance from across the research institutions in the state of Illinois, including Argonne National Lab, Fermilab, and many of the universities. At the heart of the park is a user facility. So that's really what we're after, is building a user facility. You sort of think of this like in the same sense, and I sort of say this humbly, but in the same sense as some of the user facilities at the national labs. So users can come in, maybe they apply for funding to pay the expenses for that work, but they can come in and use, at the center of all of this, a massive shared cryo facility that provides industrial scale cooling for quantum computing prototype scale-up. So we expect, among others, I'll mention just two partners in particular that I want to call attention to. PsiQuantum is what we refer to as our first anchor tenant in the park. So PsiQuantum announced a couple months ago that they will come to the park, and their intent is to build the first utility-scale fault-tolerant quantum computer. So this is a massive endeavor. They have a particular technology based on silicon photonics that requires a large amount of cooling, and so the design of the cryo plant that we're building is in part to serve PsiQuantum's needs, as well as many other users who come to the shared facility. The other party or partner that I'd like to draw your attention to is DARPA. So once we announced plans to build the park in the late spring, early summer, DARPA came to us and asked whether this could be the location for a part of their massive new program called the Quantum Benchmarking Initiative. So in fact, we reached an agreement with DARPA so that DARPA will pledge some amount of funds from their new Quantum Benchmarking Initiative. The state of Illinois will match that with $140 million of matching funds, and the funding will be used to draw companies and researchers into the park to build large-scale prototypes, and in many cases, we expect that they'll be taking advantage of the shared cryo facility. All right, just a couple of specifics, and then I'll wrap up. I want to just mention again the shared cryo plant. So this is a unique feature of the park that will be right at the center. It'll be an amount of sort of cryo capacity that will allow cooling to 4 Kelvin, 3 Kelvin, 2 Kelvin, and so on, down to millikelvin, depending on the quantum technology that we're trying to support. That amount of cooling is something like 5 times or 10 times the capacity of all of the current cryo capacity in the state of Illinois. It'll be largest in the country, and it's something that many, many companies have approached us now to ask about making use of. Also, just draw your attention before I wrap up to a couple of other features of this. So we're planning a workforce development center on the campus that will focus on training of workers and next generation employees of quantum industry. including those right out of high school all the way up to the graduate level. And to touch on something that came up at the end of the last panel, a quantum algorithm center. So there'll be activities, ranging from compilers to algorithms to software work that's going on in the park. That'll be an additional component of the park. I'm going to just say one or two more things about the DARPA Illinois Quantum Proving Ground, which is the DARPA program that'll be based at the park, and then I'll wrap up. So this joint program, it's very unique. So DARPA has recently announced a massive program that they call the Quantum Benchmarking Initiative. The DARPA Illinois Quantum Proving Ground is a component of that will live at the Illinois Quantum and Microelectronics Park. In that program, funding will go towards essentially four things. Prototypes. These are essentially the larger scale computers that are going to be built to test out the new algorithms and test out the end uses. There will be infrastructure and equipment that's supported by DARPA in the state of Illinois. So this will be the kind of characterization equipment and testing equipment that is needed to test the prototypes. There'll be very specific testing and evaluation work that's done under the supervision of DARPA and their teams of evaluators. So if you're a quantum company that is aiming to scale up, you need capital, you can apply to DARPA to get funds under the understanding that you will come to the park, set up, have your technology tested by DARPA testers and evaluators. Many of those testers and evaluators will be coming from the national labs, and we hope many of those from Argonne and Fermilab. And then as a new budding quantum company, or maybe a Fortune 100 quantum company, you have the opportunity of essentially getting the DARPA seal of approval, the DARPA authorization or standardization verification of your activity. Finally, we're very excited about this, but there'll be support for carrying out fundamental research in the quantum park. And so this is a place we expect that will draw researchers together from really across industry, academia, the national labs, to do their work. All right, with that, I will wrap up, and I thank you for your attention, and I just want to say that this is just a great opportunity to bring folks together across both kind of the microelectronics segment and the quantum segment, and celebrate this great partnership. So I'll stop there, thank you.